My name's Kira Corbett, and I'm currently attending university to become a teacher, an educator. My whole life has always made me so mad when I've seen some of my peers throw away the amazing opportunity for the education they have been given. But what makes me even madder is when I know there are children in this world who aren't even given those same opportunities in the first place. I'm lucky. I went to a pretty good high school. I had teachers who cared about me and helped me to succeed. I was able to pursue my interests and passions, and as a future educator, I want to be the one providing those same opportunities that I was given. There are a lot of students out there who just need someone to care about them, and I'm going to be that person for some of them. Unfortunately, there are many students that still won't have that person. Or they'll have that person, but that person will be limited in how they may help them because of the resources they've been given. Let's talk about the First Nations people in Canada for the next few minutes. Schools on Aboriginal reserves are funded by the federal government, and all other public schools are funded at the provincial level by the provincial government. Schools on First Nation reserves receive on average $2,000 to $3,000 less per student every year than students in off-reserve public schools, and it's as much as $8,000 in Ontario. There is also zero funding for computers, teacher training, extracurriculars, special education support, and developing culturally appropriate curriculum. In 2010, 48 new schools were needed and 29 were in need of expansion or renovation to meet basic health standards. Funding isn't the only issue that is faced with Aboriginal education. In the 1830s, residential schools started to be established in Canada. Residential schools forcibly took First Nations children away from their families and communities to schools for forced assimilation into European culture. Students at these schools faced emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. At their peak in 1931, there were 80 residential schools open in Canada. The chance of dying for a child in a residential school was 1 in 25. Compare that to the chance of a Canadian soldier dying in World War II being 1 in 26. The last residential school in Canada only closed in 1996, less than 20 years ago. These schools mean many First Nations are distrustful of the education system. This also left many communities plagued by many societal issues because of the widespread trauma caused by the residential schools. It is known to take 7 generations to heal after severe trauma in a family, and because of the lack of support for First Nations affected by residential schools, the issues are being perpetuated over generations. Currently, compared to non-Native Canadians, Aboriginal youth are 7 times more likely to be victims of homicide, 5 times more likely to commit suicide, and twice as likely to have an alcohol-related death. Ask any teacher, they will agree that when students come to school, they also bring with them their problems from home. They're never just a blank slate. As Dr. Kevin Kumashiro describes it, it's like being in a relationship and having our song. While you're in that relationship, the song will make you happy when you hear it. But let's say you then break up with that person. Now every time you hear that song, it makes you sad. Not only does your relationship with that material change as you apply new life experiences and context to it, how you feel about that song can be very different from what someone else feels when they hear it. When children with issues at home come to school, all of those issues are carried with them and affect how they learn. First Nations communities are still being put at a disadvantage. According to Statistics Canada, 92 of Canada's 100 poorest communities are Aboriginal ones. When students go to school, it is important that they feel connected and reflected in the education they are receiving. But with such low funding for on-school reserves, a lot of students choose to go to a provincial school. But there, many feel like they are turning their backs on their communities and heritage and being further assimilated into European culture. Because of these issues, more than half of the Aboriginal population has not graduated high school, and only 6% have a university degree. Inuit communities have been going in reverse. Between 1998 and 2011, the number of students who hadn't finished high school rose from 48% to 59%. There is a theory in education called the pedagogy of questioning, which is that students should question where they are in life, how they got there, and how it could be different. Education with this philosophy aims to make independent thinkers. If I was an Aboriginal student, my questioning would lead me to one conclusion based on the education and resource opportunities I am given: that as a Native Canadian, my worth is less than a non-Native Canadian. Now that I know more, I know that something, a lot of things, need to change.